Yesterday's is. There we go. Wonderful. It's a little chilly in here, but we're good. Maybe it's the internet in the building, but I think the internet seems to be okay. Just let me know if you're here so I can see. Just say, hey, I hear you, I see you. Hopefully we can get going. I feel like I'm a little stuck there. No, I think we're good. Okay. Here we go. We've been on this too much. Welcome. We're still talking about the Torah portion of Vayetze. That's this week's parsha. We're in the midst of all of our stories about Jacob, and this one is particularly interesting in that there's a lot of, you could say, things that go wrong for people or deception. But there's a major deception that happens in this. Jacob comes to the well, meets Rachel, falls in love with her, and wants to marry her. So Lavan, hello Adam, hello Lisa, and Chuck. So he wants to marry Rachel. He loves Rachel, and Lavan, his future father-in-law, says, oh yeah, okay, but you have to work for me for 7 years. Okay, he works for him for 7 years. Rachel gets married, veil over the woman the whole time. The next thing you know, he wakes up in the morning and it's the wrong woman. He married Leah instead of Rachel. And he's angry. He goes to Lavan. He's like, what did you do? You deceived me and you made me marry her. And he says, well, it's in our way to marry the older daughter before the younger daughter. The tradition of Bedekin, when you take the veil and you lift it up and you look to make sure that it's the right girl, is because of this story. Because Jacob was deceived into marrying Leah first. And, there's something silly about it, but, deceptions can happen. The curious part about this deception is it is the second time in as many chapters that someone is deceived at a moment where they can't see. The first is what he does to his father last week. We didn't get to that story. I would have gotten to it on Thursday, but I wasn't able to do the meditation. But he deceives his father, Isaac, who has trouble seeing. That's how he's able to deceive him, by putting the fur on his arms and by pretending that he was his brother, even though it was obvious he wasn't. And then you have here a guy who goes into, the wedding tent, and it's dark. It's probably pitch black, right? There aren't lights around there. And it's pitch black. He can't see what's going on. And he's deceived because he can't see. But the question that's always come up for me, and that I think is interesting for our mindfulness today and our thoughts, is, did they both really not know? There's ample evidence in the story of Jacob and Isaac that Isaac knew that it was him. He asks him something like 6 times, are you sure you're my son Esau? You smell like him and you feel like him, but your voice isn't really like Esau's. So he keeps asking these questions. Come here closer so that I can smell you to determine whether you're the right son. So it does seem like Isaac has an inkling that he knows that he's being tricked. And then there are some midrashim that say that that Leah and Rachel conspired to deceive Jacob, because Rachel said to Leah, well, you know, he likes to be kissed this way, or he likes to be touched that way, and this is how you can touch his ear or his hair or whatever. And so since Leah knew the ways that in which Rachel kissed him or touched him, that he wouldn't know the difference. Really? I don't want to really think about this, but I suspect if on my wedding night it was one of Michelle's sisters in my room, I think I'd recognize it, even if the lights were off. So it brings up the question about you and about me. Have you ever been in a situation where you feigned like you didn't know? Where you knew you were being deceived, but you'd allowed it to happen anyway. Why would we do that? Perhaps it's something that you wanted to happen, so you just go with it. Something you think will benefit you, so you decide, okay, so I know this isn't what it seems to be, but it's still good for me. Those could be a couple of reasons why a person, knowing they're being deceived, would, I don't know if it's go along with the deception, but allow the deception to happen. Now, one might say it's just allowing things to be just as they are for now, which is true. But I think there's more to it than that. Is that, do we allow ourselves to be deceived because we feel, well, this must be the way it ought to be? Or, in the case of Isaac and Jacob, if Jacob knew that Isaac was deceiving, if Isaac knew that Jacob was deceiving him, but he thought it was in the best interest of the family, then I can understand why he may have allowed the deception to happen. If he felt as if Jacob should be receiving this blessing. But I can't imagine that Jacob, in love with Rachel, would be positive about being with Leah instead of Rachel. After all, there isn't a very pleasant description of Leah. And in the remainder of the story, in our entire Torah portion, Leah is doing everything. He didn't love her. She deceived him. But the fact is, he somehow was complicit in a certain way. In some ways, he's complicit. Hello, sis. He's complicit in this because he really does allow it to happen. Maybe he didn't notice right away, but don't you think he would have noticed at some point and not just in the morning? And so, when do we allow things to happen that we may not in our original plan? I'm sure there could be many other reasons why we would allow ourselves to be deceived. But I do know there have been times where I know that what's going on might not be the way that I wanted them to be, but I did allow it to happen the way it happened, whether it was my intention or not. So maybe it was just kind of an acceptance of, this is what life is right now, and I'm going to roll with it. Or it's, I know I'm being deceived, and I'm just not going to say anything about it because it's going to benefit me. I can't imagine how that turns out so positive. And in fact, with Leah and Jacob, they did have children together, but was there ever true love there? And then did Leah ever feel as if she was anything? Tomorrow we're going to get into this idea of where to find value. But here, this idea, and why would Leah go along with the deception? Did she feel that was the only choice that she had? But why would she continue it all night? She could have been married to him, gone into the tent, and then told him who she was. But she was also complicit in making this deception happen. Lavan and Leah and Rachel all knew before Jacob did. Or did they? did Jacob just know about it and not want to say anything about it? This part, but after the next morning, he goes and he says, "Hey, what's going on? I was supposed to marry Rachel," and Lavan says, "Just wait a week, and you have all of your Sheva Brachot that you'll go around the wedding week where you go and you have meals with people and they bless you. Do your week's worth of blessings, and then next week you can have Rachel. But you got to work for another 7 years." And indeed, he does. It's another 7 days for Rachel, not another 7 years, which is what I always thought when I was a kid and they told me that story. So let's get ourselves into a comfortable position. We're just allowing everything to be as it is for now. Not trying to change anything. Not trying to solve anything. Just to remember that we're just concentrating on our breath, taking it all in, our heartbeat, our breath. As we come to our final minutes, it's Wednesday and we ask for two feelings. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous, filled with light, enlightenment. May I feel as if I'm part of feelings of love that go between two people. And there could be many people that share love. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel luminous and loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous and loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous and loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you were able to find some peace and stillness. May you feel luminous, and may you feel loved, and may you have a wonderful evening. See you tomorrow.